Bum, 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 bum. Hello there, demons and draglings. Welcome to probably the closest thing I'm ever going to get to a walkthrough video. Um, so today we're going to be playing Demon's Souls. And I guess let me sort of explain what's happening here. First of all, so I guess first I have to explain. Yes, I know that. So I have a very special relationship with this game. Uh, I I hate to do the hipster thing of saying like I was into it before it was cool, but I was hotly anticipating this game from the moment the first gameplay footage was released. And the reason for that is that I was a big From Software fan based on a few of their previous titles on the PlayStation 2. Not the ones that they're the most well known for, but back in the olden days. Hold on, this is a great intro. I'm not super into this part of the intro, but that the first few lines and then that shadow of the demon flying over the landscape is just an amazing introduction to this game. Okay. As I was saying, I have a special relationship with this game. So, back in the olden days, when we actually used to go into physical locations to purchase games and other, uh, yes, and other goods, um, I picked up a game called Togi Myth of Demons for the Xbox. This is the old Xbox, not the Xbox One, but the first Xbox. Are we going to watch another video here? It's just that same one again. Um, and if you've never played a Togi, it's another From Software game. It's just this amazing, more of an action game than Demon Souls is, but still with no, we're not signing in. Nope. We're gonna start the game in offline mode. Did I select load or new game? New game. Nope. I would not. I would rather you did not keep flashing my email. So is while we're here on the character select screen, I'm just going to give the brief synopsis of Atogi. So anyway, it's an action game. It's set in sort of Japanese history, but more like the mythological, I guess, time period of Japanese history. And you play as it's been a long time since I've played it, but you basically play as a warrior who has died, and then his soul is sort of resurrected to carry out these specific deeds, and you go through these levels that are one of the big selling points of the game is that the levels are very destructible, and you can get like a lot of different weapons that handle differently. You can get different kinds of magic, different equipment that all affect your stats. And then I'm not sure if you can in the first game, but in the sequel, you can, I think it's called Atogi Immortal Heroes or something like that. You can also then upgrade all of those weapons to level 99. And then, of course, there's a new game plus where you get to carry all of your stuff, but the game gets harder. And it has a lot, even though it was not designed by the same, lead designer of Demon Souls, it has a lot of similar DNA, like similar concepts, but a little bit less of a Western, like a little bit less of a European fantasy setting, a little bit less of an RPG element to it. And then I also played this amazing game that's also similarly set in, it actually features some of the same characters, called Kuon, which is a horror game. Highly recommend if you ever get a chance to play it. I don't think very many people did play it. I think it was very niche. Also by From Software. So by the time, and those were like some of my favorite games. So by the time this game was announced and I saw the first gameplay, I was like really excited to play it. But I don't like difficult games. And I also don't tend to read a lot of reviews. So what ended up happening was I basically fell in love with this game. I feel like I love this game and this series for very different reasons than a lot of other people. And to me, I don't even think these games are particularly difficult. Remember, I don't like difficult games. I'm not actually particularly good at video games. If you've seen some of my other streams, you might, earlier today, you might have seen me failing at like the same little platforming challenge 5 times in a row. You might have seen me failing at trying to take a picture in Super Mario 3D World Bowser's Fury. I think the difficulty of these games is extremely over-exaggerated. They're definitely obscure in their mechanics, and I'm not going to say they're easy. It's not like you can go through the game and expect to never die. But because the game treats death not as a restart, but as a continuation, I think if you approach it with that sort of mindset, it's not actually that difficult. You should expect to die, but death is not actually as punishing as it is in a lot of other games. The main difficult element of these games is that you can't just quick save whenever you like and reload that save. There's no concept of reloading your save. It auto-saves all the time after pretty much everything you can do, including after you die. And so your game is always continuing. It's never starting over. So you couldn't, for example, get right up to the boss, quick save, and then if you die at the boss, start from there again. But you do get this continuity as you play. So like if you get up to the boss and die, yes, you lose your souls, and that's like the experience points and money that you've gathered. But not permanently. You can go back if you can make it back to where you died originally and touch your bloodstain, you get those elements back. So it's you basically lost even less than if you had restarted or reloaded from an old save. And you also get to keep all of the items that you've collected. So for instance, if you're going through the level, these games typically have one of the things I really like about them is the great level design, where you have lots of nooks and crannies and places sort of off the beaten path where you can find various things. And as you're going through the level, you might take a detour and grab some items and fight off, like, I don't know, an ambush of glowing slugs that represent souls or something like that. Or you might, fight like a little mini boss. And certain things like that, you keep that progress, right? So if you battled through this ambush of slugs to get that treasure that's sort of off the beaten path, you don't have to go do that again. You have that treasure, even if you later die. So that's one thing that kind of eases the difficulty. And then another element that kind of eases the difficulty is that you do get shortcuts as you play through the levels. I would say there are a few in Demon Souls. I would say later games typically get a little better about this. I would say Dark Souls is actually probably the worst about making you retread areas of the game that you've already gone through. But as you'll see, actually, as we play through this level, you do sort of unlock shortcuts as you play. So if you start this game as a complete newbie to the series, do not be dissuaded if you feel like you're dying a lot. As part of the experience, death is not the end in these games, and death is not something that should make you feel beaten down. Death is something that should sort of feel like a natural part of living in this setting. And it's actually a very important part of the atmosphere, is this sort of nihilistic world building where death is almost sort of ubiquitous. Another thing I really love about these games is the lore. So every item, every archstone, every little bit of flavor text that you can read is not actually just flavor, but it's building the lore of this world in what is otherwise a fairly minimalist story in terms of traditional narrative. You're not going to see a lot of cutscenes in these games where people are talking to each other. You will get some dialogue, typically all in gameplay, and you'll also get a lot of like just 2 or 3 sentence descriptions of equipment that you pick up: rings, scrolls, swords. And if you put all of that together, you get this really cohesive picture of this world that's actually, I think, really engrossing and much more interesting than having the story given to you in the style of watching a movie. So I think these games do lore and exploration better than anything else. And I do think that their difficulty is quite over-exaggerated. So the reason that I'm making this video is my brother, for whatever reason, he's not a gamer, but he picked up a PlayStation 5 around the time of launch, and he picked up the Demon Souls remake. I'm planning not to pick up the Demon Souls remake. I love this game, but I've played this game at least 3 full playthroughs. I feel like I've experienced this game, and I don't have to devote another 50 hours of my life to this game just to see it with better graphics. And if I wanted to play it again, I have the original game, as you can see. But so my brother is not really a gamer, and he's heard me talk about how much I love these games, and he sort of feels like maybe they're not for him. He's also tried Bloodborne in the past. And I agree, maybe these games are not for him, but he's talked about sort of how beaten down he feels by the game, and how they just make him feel like depressed, like he's not getting anywhere. And I wanted to make this video to sort of show that the opening stages of this game are extremely difficult, but they can be overcome. So, like I said, this is the closest that I'm going to come to a tutorial or a walkthrough video, probably, because I don't consider myself an expert at very many games. I play way too many games and do too many other things in my free time to consider myself an expert at any game. But this is one of the ones that I've probably put more hours into. I'd say 150 hours roughly into this game across a few different playthroughs. So I haven't played it in a long time. I haven't played it probably since maybe 2016. So I feel like I have a general sense of some basic advice for people who are new to the game to not become discouraged. And that's kind of the idea of this playthrough. I haven't played the game in a while. I'm not an amazing gamer. I actually never really got the hang of parry and riposte, which is like one of the core gameplay, like combat mechanics in this series. So you're not going to see me like do a speed run through this level, but I want to give an idea that this first, I guess, hurdle that the game throws at you can be overcome. And I want to talk a little bit more about this hurdle, but I'm going to get through this character creation first. So we get to choose our gender. Yes, okay. So we can be a male or female. Oh, wow. Yeah. The character creation definitely came a long way in this series. Let's just be a female. Does it affect my stats at all? I don't think it does. And then we've got a few different classes to choose from. So I'm not going to go in depth into these classes. Other people have done that, but I want to give you some tips to avoid. So basically this video is for the person who's not confident in video games and it really knows nothing about the Souls series. What should you do when you first start out? All right, so we've got a few options for classes. And basically they change your starting equipment and your starting stats. And you'll notice one of the numbers you need to pay attention to at the very bottom is your soul level. And your soul level is like your level. If you think of a role-playing game like Final Fantasy or Dungeons and Dragons, your level is basically your power level, right? So your soul level is your level. And that is it gives you a rough sense of how strong your character is if you add together all of their stats. So you don't have to pay attention to all of them individually. But there are some things to pay attention to. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like the barbarian and the thief, if you look at their soul level, they start out at soul level 9, which means if you add all of their attributes together, they're a little bit stronger than most of the other characters, and particularly stronger than royalty, who starts only at soul level 1. And one piece of advice that I constantly see for this game is you want to pick your starting class as royalty. And there's definitely good reasoning behind that. And the main one is that because you start at soul level 1, you typically have more flexibility when you get to start building your character and leveling up and gaining skills. You have more flexibility in what you put your points into. Whereas if you choose one of the ones that starts at soul level 9, you've already had the first 8 levels chosen for you. So you don't have that flexibility. And that's one reason that people say to start with royalty. The other reason is royalty starts with a really nice piece of equipment that lets you regenerate your magic points continuously. I think that's what it does. And also starts with a spell that's pretty good. So this is a good starting class if you want to be casting magic. That's what people say. But I actually disagree. I started my first game as royalty. I found the first level of the game extremely difficult because you start out such a low level. And the main thing that people need to realize about this game, especially if you're new to the series, is that there's an opening gauntlet to this game. By the way, I always thought it was running the gauntlet, but apparently it's running the gantlet. Maybe it's still pronounced gauntlet. But there's this opening sort of hurdle that you have to overcome, which is the first level. Until you've beaten the first boss in Demon Souls, you don't get access to any of the elements of the game that balance difficulty based on your ability. And what I mean by that is you can't level up your character and increase your stat points, make your character stronger, able to withstand more damage, able to hit harder, all of these passive bonuses that you can get by spending soul points. You can't do that until you've beaten the first boss. And you also can't play cooperatively until you've beaten the first boss. And those are, I would say, the two main things that make this game not as difficult, and the series in general, not as difficult as people make them out to be. Because yes, you can die fairly easily in Demon Souls or Dark Souls or Bloodborne. But if you're having trouble, you could always just go through an easier area, kill a lot of enemies, what they call farm souls, right? You pretend like you're a farmer and just harvest those souls, which sounds awful. I'm not making it sound any better, but you basically you get a bunch of souls and you spend them on levels, and that will make the game easier. No matter which area of the game you're in, if you level up more, the game will be objectively easier. And then the other thing is cooperative. One of the really difficult elements of this game that is then dialed back in all of the other Soulsborne games, kind of replicated a little bit in Dark Souls 2, but still relatively dialed back, is that you have your human form or your body form, and then you have your soul form. And when you're in your human form, you're at full health. When you're in your soul form in this game, you're at half health. You cannot increase your health above half its maximum when you're in soul form. And as a trade-off, I think you can do a little bit more damage when you're in soul form. But it is a heck of a trade-off. It's much easier to die when you're in soul form. How do you get your body back? You can do it in two ways. You can defeat a boss, or you can help somebody in cooperative multiplayer. You can also do competitive multiplayer, which is in this game basically assassinating other players. You invade their world and try to get them killed, and then if you get them killed, whether directly or indirectly, you get a reward. But really, the cooperative mode, if you're not a super high skilled gamer, is the way to get more soul points. Is the way to balance the difficulty. It gets you your body form back, and I kind of jumped the gun on this, but it gets you a lot of soul points. And the really nice thing about playing cooperatively is you can plop down your soul sign, and then other players can summon you into their world to help them. If you die in another player's world, you keep all of the souls that you got while helping them. If you die in your own world, you lose all the souls and you have to make your way back to your bloodstain, hopefully, to reclaim them. And if you die a second time, you lose them permanently. But if you die in cooperative mode, you keep those souls. And then you keep all the souls you get for helping them defeat the boss, and you get your body back. And once you get your body back, you can then summon other players into your world to help you. So the cooperative element of the game is a huge leveler in terms of making this game more accessible to different kinds of players. But you can't do that, and you can't increase your soul level and increase your stats until after you've defeated the final boss. Or, sorry, the first boss. The boss of the first area. So, I'm actually amazed that this game is what they chose to remake with the launch of the PlayStation 5. I understand this was a PS3 exclusive. Not a lot of people got to play it before, but the mechanics are really hard to overcome. It's certain elements of the game definitely got smoothed out and made more accessible in later games in this series. And one of the main things is that opening ordeal that you have to overcome. So, you cannot get discouraged. Don't go into this game, die 50 times in the opening level, and think that it's impossible, you're never going to defeat the final boss. As soon as you get past that opening area, you can start taking steps to make the experience easier for yourself and more suited to your playstyle. So, that's kind of the purpose of this video. Not necessarily showing you what to do, but showing you how not to lose hope. So back to my advice. I do not recommend Royal for a starting class. If you are an experienced gamer, absolutely I do recommend Royal. You have a really nice blend of stats here, and you have a lot more flexibility, and I believe if you add up all of the stat levels, along with the potential gains that you can get from increasing your soul level, the Royal can have a higher overall level than anybody else, right? They can have more stat increases overall. But all of that is no good if you can't make it through the first area, when you can start actually gaining levels. And I want you to look at the top right of the screen. You can see that vitality stat. That's the one we have to pay attention to. Vitality is your health points. How many hits can you take before you die? And you look at the Royal compared to any of the other characters. And the Royal starts with the lowest vitality. And then we also want to look at these stats like endurance. Endurance also affects you, the kind of armor that you can wear in your defense, I believe. It's been a little while, and I know they changed things up in some of the other games. But the endurance of the Royal is also very low. And the strength of the Royal is very low. And the strength and dexterity, strength and dexterity determine the damage that you can do with melee weapons. All of those stats are fairly low with the Royal. What the Royal can do is shoot energy orbs. I'm getting spammed over here. How do I delete these messages? I'm not going to do it. So what you can do as a Royal is you can do kind of cheesy distance attacks that, while they do, your MP does regenerate, it takes a while. So you're gonna want to get in there and do some close range attacks eventually anyway. And because you're doing everything from a distance, you're not really learning the core combat mechanics of the game. So I do not recommend starting with Royal, despite what everybody else says. Now, what are our other options? Now, I've not played this game in quite a while, and I haven't looked up tutorials or anything, so I'm just kind of going through this blind. But Soldier looks like a nicely balanced starting class for melee combat. It's got good strength and dexterity, so he's going to be good with something like a straight sword. that takes your damage from both strength and dexterity. Pretty good, pretty high vitality, actually. It looks like about the highest vitality out of all of these options. It looks like starts with some fairly light armor, like a chainmail type of armor, and starts with a shield. So all of these are really nice starting things. The main thing is intelligence and magic are fairly low, which means you're not going to be casting any spells. Faith is actually fairly decent. And luck is okay. But vitality is pretty high. So I would say Soldier is a pretty decent starting class. Let's look at the Knight. The Knight is going to start with some heavier armor and more of a focus on strength. The Knight actually starts with a fairly low soul level, and that comes from lowering the vitality, it looks like, and as well as got more points in magic and intelligence. So this class might be able to get some more get some magic use later on. Hunter starts with an axe, very, very light armor, a little bit higher on the dexterity, but pretty good endurance. Priest is I would recommend the Priest as a starting class, because the Priest starts with some healing magic, so you don't have to rely completely on your consumable items. One of the big differences between Demon Souls and later games in the series is that all of the health items in Demon Souls are consumable. Once you use them, they're gone. You can get more by fighting enemies. You can get up to 99 of them. So that's actually easier in some ways, but if you're really struggling with the game, it can be harder. But as the Priest, you have a pretty high faith stat, and you still have pretty good vitality and strength and endurance, and you can heal yourself with miracles. The Magician has very high magic. I believe the Magician starts with like a fireball spell or something like this. I probably would not recommend the Magician for the same reason that I would not recommend the Royal. If you're going to go magic, you probably are going to go with the Royal anyway, because the difference in vitality is not that great, and the Royal starts with arguably more useful equipment and a better spell. But you're not going to get into too much trouble for starting with the Magician. Wanderer is a really weird mix of stats. I believe that the Wanderer is supposed to be like a Ronin kind of character. So like using Eastern style swords, much more dexterity based attacks. And then the Barbarian is interesting. The Barbarian starts with extremely high vitality, like the highest vitality out of all of these, so it can take the most hits, but starts with essentially no armor. Also is much more focused on strength than dexterity, and has a pretty good amount of luck, and luck determines what types of items and how frequently you'll get them enemies. And then we have the Thief. The Thief is another dexterity-based class, and looks like the Thief starts with some ranged weapons in the form of like bow and arrow. I probably would not use the Thief either as a starting class. The reason I would not use the Thief as a starting class is dexterity is going to be a little bit harder to get used to, especially if you're not a super experienced gamer. And these bow and arrow and with throwing knives and those kinds of thief-based equipment is going to also be consumable. So it's going to be stuff that if you use it and then you die, you don't get it back. So I would recommend picking one of the melee-based classes. So we've got Soldier, we've got Knight, who starts with a little bit stronger equipment, but kind of weird mix of stats. A lot of points in magic and faith, so you might become a magic user later, but if you're not interested in that, those are wasted points. The Temple Knight, which starts with really good equipment and good healing magic as well, or the Priest. So I would recommend any of those classes. And I think for my playthrough, I'm going to start as the Temple Knight, who's going to be wearing a little bit heavier armor. The big challenge here is that the Temple Knight starts with this like pike, which is going to be a little bit more difficult for me to maneuver. But I like that the Temple Knight starts with some heavier armor and the ability to actually wield this armor, because you have to have certain stat levels to wear heavier armor. And the Temple Knight has some elements of a priest as well. So it combines that sort of healing ability with a pretty decent vitality, although not actually as high as the priest, and some good survivability. So we're going to go with the Temple Knight. Again, this is not advice about which class to pick. I think with any class you can get through it, and we're going to randomize. Oh no. All of these are awful. All right. Actually didn't mind that last one. I shouldn't have clicked so fast. I love how no matter what you do, it's going to look like a dead frog. I probably spent way too long talking about those classes, considering that I actually remember very little about them. I'm not the expert on those starting classes. Come on, give me some. All right, that's a decent one. And then you can then choose to change these up if you want. I could make her a redhead, which might be fun. I think I'm just going to go with dark brown hair, and we can change our hairstyle. I could just have her shaved head. Actually, I might just have her have a shaved head. I mean, she's a knight, right? Yeah, we'll have her have a shaved head. You can change how female or male she is, and also how young or old she is, and then you can go even more detailed than that. But we're not gonna spend too long on this. And we need to give her a name. What should we call her? Let's call her. Let's see. It's been a while since I've had to use next entry on the PlayStation 3. It is not fun, is it? Chickadee. We're going to call her Chickadee. All right. So I believe we're going to be presented with another amazing intro movie pretty soon. So let's see what that is.
King Aland XII, by channeling the power of souls, brought unprecedented prosperity to his northern kingdom of Boletaria. That is, until the colorless deep fog swept across the land. Boletaria was cut off from the outside world, and those who dared penetrate the deep fog never returned. But Valarfax of the royal twin fangs broke free from the fog and told the world of Boletaria's plight. That the old King Alant had aroused the Old One, the great beast below the Nexus, from its eternal slumber, and that a colorless fog had swept in, unleashing terrible demons. The demons hunt down men and claim their souls. Those who lose their souls also lose their minds. The mad attack the sane, and chaos reigns. Valarfax spoke of the enticing power of the demon souls. Each time a demon claims a human soul, the demon's own soul is invigorated by the life force, and the power of a mature demon soul is beyond human imagination. The legend spread quickly. Mighty warriors were drawn to the accursed land, but none have returned. Bjor of the Twin Fangs, Yurt the Silent Chief, Sage Urbane, Skurver the Wanderer, the Sixth Saint Astraea and her knight Garl Vinland, and Sage Frake the Visionary. The colorless deep fog slowly creeps beyond Boletaria's borders. Humankind faces a slow and steady extinction. The deep fog will eventually swallow all lands near and far. But Boletaria has one final hope. A lone warrior who has braved the baneful fog. Has the land found its savior? Or have the demons found a new slave?
Yes. So that opening, I just love this game. But what I love about the opening is the first time you watch it, it's like an alphabet soup of like fantasy names.
Brave soul who fears not death. I shall guide you. So that you may lull the old one back to slumber.
So, one thing I should mention before I forget about it is that the do not, if you're a new player, you have no idea what the Soulsborne games are about, do not stress too hard about your opening class, especially the stats, because you haven't experienced the game yet. You don't know exactly. I have camera controls inverted here. I used to play with inverted camera controls all the time, and then every once in a while you'll run into a game that does not let you play with inverted camera. The reason I started playing with inverted camera was, I think, Halo. Some game that I played forced inverted camera on you. So I started playing with that in every game, and then I ran into another game that would not let me invert the camera, and so I unlearned it. It takes, a couple of days before your fingers, you get the muscle memory. it's still inverted. I think I did not really save the settings. Okay. There we go. Yeah, so don't stress too hard about the starting class or like what kind of build you're going to build before you start the game. Just experience what the game has to offer, okay? So that's why it's good to pick a starting class that has a pretty broad mix of stats, because then you can choose to go down any path that you want. If you know you're going to want to play, let's say, a faith-based class, then choose the priest. If you know you're going to want to play a magic-based class, choose the magician or royalty. But unless you have a good amount of experience with these kinds of games, or like you're really into role-playing and you really want to play a certain type of character, then I would not recommend choosing one of those more specific ones, or like the barbarian or a wanderer, and I would recommend choosing something that has a pretty balanced mix of stats, because your starting stats are very minimal. They have a very minimal impact on the overall, I guess, experience that you're going to have. Once you start leveling up your character, your starting stats, it's going to make a difference of maybe a few extra levels that you're going to have to pour into it to get the same level of magic or faith or what have you as somebody who started as one of those dedicated magic or faith-based builds. So definitely do not fret about it, but do be aware that for this opening area, some classes are harder than others, and you cannot change your stats until you've finished the first boss. So let's continue through the game. So I do recommend either the Knight or the Temple Knight for starting out. You might choose the Soldier if you really want to. R1 standard attack. So one gameplay mechanic that was pretty new to me when this game came out, and is kind of becoming like a core mechanic in the series, is the idea that your weapon sort of takes up physical space. So we just saw it there. If you swing your weapon sort of in a wide arc too close to a wall, it'll bounce off the wall. So that's why choosing the Temple Knight is a little bit tricky, because you're going to find yourself in tight spaces a lot, and you really don't want to swing your weapon and then have it bounce and leave yourself wide open to a counterattack. But before I move on, I want to say how much I love that intro, because the first time you watch it, you really have no sense of what anything is, like who any of these people are, and it kind of feels like, especially because they don't actually show you these people who ventured into the deep fog, it kind of feels like you're overhearing a campfire tale, or a legend being told in a culture that you're completely unfamiliar with. And that's pretty much exactly what it is. And then after you completed the game for the first time, most likely, if you're paying attention to all the lore, you will know who all of those people are, and you will know exactly what happened to them after they disappeared in the colorless deep fog. But I will say, there's basically 3 intros to this game. There's that opening video that automatically plays as soon as you turn on the game. There's the one that we just watched, and then there's another one that plays in a little bit before we start the actual first level after the tutorial. And I will say out of those 3, I like the third one the best. It gives me a very strong, never-ending story vibe because of the girl's appearance and accent who narrates it. And I think out of the 3 of them, it's probably the best sort of produced visually. Okay, let's read our notes here. So if I hold the circle button, I can run fast. I can hold L1 to guard. Now, most characters are going to be able to guard if they have a shield. I believe some characters might not begin with a shield, but most of them start with something like a shield. See, there you go. So you basically have 2 types of attacks. You have a weak attack and a strong attack. My strong attack, if I'm holding this weapon one-handed, is definitely not something I would want to use in close quarters. That looks like a skeleton. R3 is target lock. Alright, so locking on is definitely something that you're going to want to get used to. Another thing that I really love about this game is just how dark it is. Hello. Not in terms of the setting, but in terms of the just visually, it's very dark. And you start with in your inventory. Let's get equipment, maybe it's an inventory. You start with this Augite of souls. Let's see. A stone radiant with the light of souls. The color of the light changes according to the souls in the area. So this tells you your world tendency, basically. It was made by Gary, a friend of Sage Frake, who is known for his magical crafts. Since it's light and easy to handle, it is widely used by travelers. So you start with this thing that basically illuminates the area immediately around you, and you're then dropped into these extremely murky, claustrophobic environments, and that is a strong part of the atmosphere of this game, particularly. I would also say that out of all of the Souls games, this is the sort of emptiest feeling, and I would say in a good way. And that's one reason I'm not super duper keen on the remake, because they added a lot of detail, whereas I think the sort of barren, like starkness of the environment is a big part of the atmosphere for me. But just from the sound design to the visuals, I would say so it's telling me I can use an item. So if you look at the bottom left of my screen, I've got Crescent Moongrass. That's what I would use. And I believe if I push the down button, maybe I can swap between items, but looks like I don't actually have any others. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so the atmosphere of this game. Yeah, it's just so barren and empty, but in a way that I think enhances the sort of nihilistic sort of tone that they're going for. Like, this feels like a land that's just been completely forsaken, and you feel like the only soul in here. And particularly the Dark Souls games then went into more of like high fantasy. Possibly, I guess you could call it low fantasy, but I would say it's more high, like dark fantasy. Whereas this feels like the most like horror. In fact, I didn't realize that this was like a fantasy setting at all. The entire first playthrough of the game that I had. Like, it didn't... Oh! I should have rolled off of there. That was a big fall. So you will take damage sometimes when you fall, especially if you're wearing heavier armor. And I believe you can mitigate the damage by rolling, but I'm not quite sure. Now you can see when I roll, it's rather slow. And that's because I'm using this starting class who's wearing heavier armor. If you are going to start with a class wearing lighter armor and maybe... Who's that? I hear ya. Maybe higher dexterity, you're going to be rolling a lot faster. And I'll actually show you if I remove my equipment. As I'll naked, I roll much more quickly. When I play these games, I tend to be a rolling fiend. I'll usually equip a pretty good shield. By the way, what shield do I have? I have a heater shield. And a heater shield is a great starting shield. I think it's probably the best shield to start the game with. Because I can show the information. I think I have to go into my equipment to really look at it. Look at my heater shield. It has 100% damage reduction. So if you look in the sort of the green icons, it has 100% damage reduction, which means that unless an enemy breaks my guard, if I block with this shield, I will block 100% of that damage. I think that only is true of physical damage, but I'm not quite sure. Pay basically no attention to the physical attack stat. You're not going to be attacking with your shields. I believe that has to do with, like, the parry mechanic. So most of the time when I'm playing these games, I'm going to be... I hear somebody. I'm going to be playing as a character who is going to be doing a lot more rolling. So I'm going to be wearing a little bit lighter armor. Pretty much the heaviest armor that I can afford to wear and still roll without... that's agonizingly slow roll. So there's basically like 3 levels of roll, I believe. Let's see what happens if I take off just my shirt. Nah, I'm still getting that ground shaking roll. Alright, and then now I'm rolling super fast. So I'm not quite sure what the different levels of roll are in this one, and I'm not going to get into it right now. But suffice to say, the heavier your equipment, the slower your roll is going to be. And that means it's much harder to dodge enemies, which means it's much more important to block the enemies with your shield. What happens if I touch the archstone here? No. So that's going to let me warp to a new area. I'm going to just check out what's over here first. I believe it's nothing. You can see... What is that? There's a dead person in there. Alright, I will touch the archstone now. So all of this is just tutorial. It's not really anything bad that can happen to you here. So if you do choose the Temple Knight, be very cautious about your attacks and do not try to dodge out of the enemy's way. I'm going to try the parry. Nope, see? Told you I'm bad at it. Let's try it again. Another thing to keep in mind is that some weapons let you attack with your shield up. This is not one of them, but usually spears, and I think some like rapiers will let you do that. So, 2 things to watch out for if you choose this as your starting class. I love that. The very slow roll, so use your shield instead. And your strong attack is an extremely wide sweep, so you're probably going to get it caught on a wall, unless you're in a wide open area. Alright, here's that damn parry and riposte that I'm so bad at. Alright, got it. So that'll let you do an extreme amount of damage to an enemy. There's also a backstab that you can do if you can get behind an enemy to do an extreme amount of damage to an enemy. And these are like the core skills for higher level players of this game. But you can get through these games essentially without using those at all. Alright, let's try this again. There we go. So you just have to hit it like... you just have to kind of get the timing down. If you do that, the game becomes so much easier. But I will tell you, I played through the entirety of Demon's Souls without ever really learning the timing for parrying. Oh, he's just gonna block me, isn't he? What does the tutorial hint say to do? Wield weapon with both hands. So it's probably gonna let me overpower his block. Alright. Switching between two-handed and one-handed is also a really important thing. Basically, you get a completely different moveset when you go to two-handed. So you can see my basic attack is like this really awkward sort of chopping motion if I'm wielding it one-handed, and my strong attack is this big, wide, sweeping swing. And you can do combos out of both of those. And then when I switch to two-handed, note that I can still block, but I'm going to be using my weapons block stats now, which is only 40% damage reduction. And in fact, I'm going to use my Talisman of God. Is that a right-hand weapon? All right. So I'm going to use my Talisman right now. And I'm going to heal by, I think, pushing up. No, that's not right. How do I use my Talisman? Oh, I use my Talisman just by pressing R1. So you see, it takes a little while, but I'm able to recover a pretty good chunk of HP without spending any of these items. And what's really nice about that for players who are just starting out is, as I mentioned, all of your items are retained when you die. That's the items that you gained and the items that you've lost. So all of these consumable health items will be permanently lost if you lose them, basically whenever you use them. So especially when you're starting out and you don't really have a good sense of how dangerous certain areas are and what your chances are of getting farther, and how much you'll have to replay if you die, I recommend really avoiding using these health items. You want to build up a good supply of them, and then you're going to use them for like when you've gotten really far in an area and you feel like you're very close to unlocking a shortcut, or when you're fighting a boss and you think you have a really good chance of beating the boss. In fact, I would probably not even use any health recovery items the first time you fight a boss. I would wait on that. just to get a sense of what the boss is like. But if you feel like you're doing pretty well against the boss, let's say you got half of its HP down, but it's starting to wear down on you, that's when you're going to start using your health items. So that's what makes it really nice to start as a priest or as a temple knight, because they have healing magic, which when you die, you do get all of your MP back. So using that spell is basically free in terms of I can then use it again as soon as I die. I can change my weapons and items using those arrows. Another big thing about these games is you are going to want to break things to get see what's behind them. Yes. Yes. Hello. Another really good reason to start with somebody who has a nice shield equipped is that some enemies will be shooting at you from a distance. You can also break things by rolling onto them. Probably a lot easier to do if you are more of a dexterity character. But one thing that you should be aware of is that all of your equipment can break. You can see it's got durability down near the bottom of the screen. It says 192/200. Every time I hit something with it, that durability goes down. My durability of my shield also goes down when I block, and I believe my armor also has durability in this game. But my armor's durability is still pretty high. But I think maybe taking a really powerful hit or somebody spitting acid on me would lower the durability. When your durability gets down low enough, your equipment becomes less effective and it can completely break and need to be repaired. So you want to watch the durability. And that means if you can, see, I carried him, but the riposte didn't land. If you can, you want to break things using stuff other than your weapons, because it just gives you a little bit extra of that durability. I'm not sure if hitting wooden objects actually decreases the durability of your weapons, but hitting things like rocks and walls definitely will. Examine the corpse, always examine the corpse. And you can see all of these enemies are dropping all sorts of stuff. Now, you can jump, I believe. Now, let's look at our controls here. Do we have something that tells us the controls? And we've got a stat guide here, so that's super useful as well. I would not recommend looking at this until it's time for you to level up your character, but if you hit the select button on the PlayStation 3 version, just pay attention to what button it says to hit, you can get into the stat guide, and it tells you what each of the stats do. So in this game, Vitality affects both your HP and how much you can carry. Your Endurance affects your stamina. So stamina is basically how many attacks you can do before you get tired. I actually have not talked about this yet, so that's a really important element of the game. If you're doing things like dashing, or rolling, or blocking with your shield, or attacking, it takes stamina. So if you look at the green bar on the top left of the screen, you'll see swinging my halberd takes quite a bit of stamina. I believe it takes even more stamina if I'm doing it two-handed. And then once I run out of stamina, I have to wait a little bit before I can hit again. I can't do those nice combos. And I can't dodge either until my stamina restores a little bit, and I can't block with my shield either. So stamina is an extremely important stat. So basically, if I'm blocking multiple hits in a row, let's say 3 hits in a row with my shield, the third one is probably going to go through and actually damage me, and not just damage me, but stagger me so that the enemy can do a really powerful attack, unless I have a good stamina. So Vitality affects HP and the item burden you can shoulder. That basically means how many items you can carry before you start getting overburdened and slowed down. This is one of the horrible things about this game that I'm very glad that they took out of later games in the series. You basically any game that has equipment burden is a big pain in my butt. The only equipment burden I am okay with is the one that's like, you can only equip this amount of stuff. But like anything that says you can only carry this amount of stuff is huge pain in the butt because it just slows you down. It doesn't really actually affect anything. And it's really bad in this game. So if you have low vitality, be prepared. You're probably going to pick up some amazing like equipment that's like one of a kind and then not be able to carry it. And then you have to leave it there and never get it again until your next playthrough. One of the things to watch out for. But vitality will increase that, and also how much HP you have. And remember, your HP gets cut in half when you die. Intelligence is your MP, and your capacity to remember spells, so basically how many different spells you can have equipped. So I have fairly good intelligence, which means I can cast this heal spell possibly twice, it looks like, hopefully. But if I wanted to be able to cast the heal spell more times, I would increase my intelligence. Endurance is also your resistances to fire, poison, and bleeding, and your equipment burden. Equipment burden is very important. So the more equipment burden I have, the more heavy equipment I can wield. And not only that, but it allows me to become more dexterous in this heavier role. So you can see I'm doing these heavy rolls. If I increase my endurance stat, I'll be able to be more nimble in the same heavy armor or equip heavier armor and weapons. Strength and dexterity both affect your attack, but different weapons get different boosts from strength and dexterity. So if I go into my inventory and I look at my halberd, and I press square to change the item list display, I can see the stat bonuses are a D from strength and an E from dexterity, which means that strength will affect the damage that I do with this weapon more than dexterity will, but both of them will have some impact. Many weapons get some impact from both strength and dexterity. But some of them are much more heavily focused on strength or dexterity. That is definitely something you want to be aware of. I think it's generally worth increasing both strength and dexterity a little bit if you're not sure what to do. But let's say you want to whack somebody with clubs. I am going to, I think, increase my mic volume a little bit. Let's see. Hopefully that's a good level, because I feel like my voice might be getting drowned out a little bit. I'm having a really hard time balancing the audio, so I don't have any like monitor. I only have the on-screen monitor, but I don't have like headphones on that tell like give me a sense of different audio levels. So I know my mic was a little too loud earlier, so I turned it up for this game. But I think this game, I'm just looking at the levels, and it looks like when I roll, that's about the same volume as my voice. I'm just going to go ahead and increase it all the way. Hopefully that's good. What was I saying? Yeah. So once you've chosen which weapons, what your favorite type of weapon is in terms of your move set and stuff like that, then you can decide whether you want to focus more on strength or dexterity or increasing both of them at once. Magic obviously affects the damage of your spells. Faith affects the damage, I guess, of your miracles. And also magic defense. And then luck affects how many items and how rare the items are that the enemies drop. Hey, buddy. Let's try this again. Come on. There we go. So again, that parry and riposte is a big deal. You want to try to learn it, but do not sweat it if you can't. Do Half Moon Grass. So Half Moon Grass is going to be a little bit stronger than Crescent Moon Grass. And obviously, Full Moon Grass is going to be stronger than either of those. I wonder if I cannot jump in this armor. Or maybe they just introduced jumping in Dark Souls. I don't remember. All right, this looks like a boss fog. So you can see there's a big fog door here. I'm not going to enter that quite yet. But that means there's something probably scary behind it. I'm going to be back in just a second. But then I'll tell you about this boss. Okay. So, interesting thing about this boss. You definitely do not want to use all your health items on this boss. You can actually defeat this guy, but you are not really meant to. See, he almost killed me in a single hit, and there he goes. So you can actually kill that guy. And I believe if you do, you get killed by something even bigger. You died. However, the Nexus traps you. So, generally, you're probably going to want to pick a more dodgy character because you're not going to be able to block that guy's attacks if you want to defeat him.
Let strength be granted so the world might be mended. Soul of the lost withdrawn from its vessel. Let strength be granted so the world might be mended. So the world might be mended.
I just love the aesthetic of this game. Like,
This is the Nexus. It holds together the northern land of Boletaria. Thou canst must not exit the Nexus. Each of the 5 archstones will connect it.
She just keeps talking. I just love the aesthetic here. You cannot escape the Nexus. I mean, if you are watching this now, you probably have some idea what the Souls series is, but imagine playing this game and seeing that message pop up. But yeah, just aesthetically, like, this is why I did not realize that this was like a European fantasy setting, because does it look like a European fantasy setting? It doesn't really look like anything. It's so unique. All right, so I don't quite remember what I'm meant to do here. I know this is the Archstone, where I basically need to go and defeat the boss. And then there's a couple of NPCs to meet here. One thing that you're gonna probably notice is what happened to that heavy thud when I land my roll. Well, that's because I am now in my soul form. And you can see in the top left, my hit points, that red bar has been cut in half. It will remain cut in half until I defeat this first boss. And that is what makes this such a difficult challenge. This is probably one of the steepest learning curves. I mean, especially given that I think that the overall difficulty of the game is over-exaggerated. I do think the difficulty of the first couple of hours of this game is intense. So we're just going to say hi to our NPCs.
Oh my. How has this happened? Has God abandoned us for failing to show proper respect to King Alant? Oh, Mbasa.
Oh, Mbasa. So one thing to definitely be aware of in these games is that I mentioned that there's really no reloading a save. So actions that you take in the game are pretty much permanent, and that includes choosing to attack an NPC. Now, she will forgive me after the first attack.
Oh, Mbasa.
But if I continue to aggravate her, she will fight back. If I actually killed her, she will be permanently dead for the rest of my play through this game. And you can permanently kill some extremely important characters.
Oh, Mbasa.
Now, she, I believe, is just a character who sells some miracles.
You new here? Do you hear for my services? My name's Baldwin. Just an ordinary blacksmith. It's simple. Just bring me all the souls you can. In trade, I'll give you weapons, or forge ones you already have. With your souls, I can eke out a living. And with my weapons, you can go on living. Not a bad deal, huh?
Some people say that the voice acting in this game is bad. I think the voice acting in this game is perfect. It's so haunting. Everybody's just slightly unhinged. Anyway, Blacksmith Baldwin is definitely somebody you do not want to accidentally kill. Because this is your way to upgrade your weapons, make them stronger. I'm going to need some shards and some souls for that. Repair your equipment, which I might as well just do while I'm here. And he also sells health items. So, like, in this first stage of the game, before I defeat the first boss, I'm going to want to probably spend all of my souls on recovery items. Crescent Moongrass to recover my HP directly, and Spice to recover my MP so that I can cast that heal spell again. You can also talk to him.
Perhaps you've already heard, but there's another blacksmith at the entrance of Stonefang Mine. He's an eccentric old man, but he knows his trade well. He's the only sane one left in a town of soul-starved men. If you do meet him, yeah, well, forget it. That stubborn old ne'er-do-well will just ignore you. You come back alive. I need your business.
Like, that line is perfectly delivered. And such, like, it just is just like gives the perfect sense of the world that we're inhabiting. So I'm not going to talk to, like, go through all of the NPC dialogue.
I'm Stockpile Thomas. When the scourge came, I didn't know what hit me. When I came to, I found myself here, in the Nexus. My wife and daughter fell victim to the demons. But I would be worthless in battle. At the very least, I hope to lend my assistance to you brave slayers of demons. I would be happy to lighten your load and look after any excess baggage.
Stockpile Thomas is also extremely important because you can basically put stuff that you're not using here. And remember, you have an item limit that you can carry. So always offload as much stuff as you can. Don't worry about these recovery items like the Moongrass that only weighs 0.1 grams or whatever it is. But things like, if I picked up another set of armor, my scale mail is 14 grams or 14 pounds or something. I don't want to be carrying around 2 or 3 sets of those, because then I'll very quickly get up to my item burden. And you always want to be able to carry things that you find while playing in the levels to take them, at least get them back to Stockpile Thomas. So always keep your item burden as low as it can possibly be. This is one of the things that they thankfully, I think, got rid of immediately. I'm not quite sure if they got rid of it with Dark Souls. They definitely got rid of this with Dark Souls 2 and onward.
When the scourge came, I abandoned my wife and daughter and fled like a madman. When I came to, I was in the Nexus. I haven't dared venture outside these walls since. I wish I could do more, but I am ignorant of the world beyond these walls.
You could also grab the things that you've deposited there.
Best of luck to you.
And then I'm going to want to talk to Crestfallen Steve? Can't remember his name. There's a Crestfallen guy. It's kind of like a series tradition in the majority of these games. I believe Bloodborne is the only one that doesn't have a Crestfallen gentleman.
Well, you slipped through the fissure too, did you? You came for demon souls? Or to save this land and be remembered as a hero? Hunting for demons? Try one of the archstones. Now, go. That is why you came, is it not? To this accursed Boletaria.
So he's basically telling me I need to touch the Archstone. If you try to touch any of these other Archstones, they are currently sealed. And there is a person, another very important NPC that I need to talk to, but I'm not sure if it's before or after I defeat the first boss.
You came for demon souls? Or to save this land and be remembered as a hero? It's all the same. You're just another prisoner of the Nexus. We're welcome here, as long as we keep slashing up demons. You came for demon souls? Or to save this land and be remembered as a...
So one other reason that I'm not planning on picking up the remake is they animated the people's mouths, which I understand that having the mouths not move when the characters are talking was a technical limitation. However, it does kind of contribute to the atmosphere of this game. Again, it kind of contributes to that emptiness. I think that I do need to touch the Archstone first before I go and do anything else. But let's see what's... anything back here? There's a light here, which means that probably later in the game there will be an NPC. Now, as I said, I'm not going to be talking to all of the NPCs and exhausting all of their dialogue right now, but I do recommend, if you're new to the game, that you do that, because dialogue is so good. So you basically going to want to talk to everybody when you first encounter them, and continue talking to them until they run out of new things to say, and then just check back in every once in a while and talk to them again. What's that? These bastards are in their body form. Me and Crestfallen Arthur or whatever.
For demon souls?
Are in our soul form. Right, I'm going to touch the Archstone. A huge stone castle in the heart of the northern kingdom of Boletaria. Hungry soldiers whose souls have been stolen by demons attack trespassers, and terrible dragons nest here. So this is it. This is the purpose of this video. This opening gauntlet that I have to get through before you can actually make the game easier. But my promise to you is that the game is easier after you finish this level, or at least you can make it easier. If you want to, you can play like minimally gaining soul levels, but if you're really stuck at any later point in the game, you can play cooperatively and you can grind soul levels to make your experience easier. But you can't do that until you get through this first part. And he's got a literal beard of corpses. Again, it really sets the tone. And it's kind of amazing how much they recycled in Dark Souls. It's one of the reasons that Dark Souls is, I think, probably my least favorite of the entire series. Although, I mean, it's still a good game. But coming from Demon Souls, there's Dark Souls felt a little bit like it was recycling a lot of the same ideas. Late Moon Grass. What is Late Moon Grass? Is that just like stronger? Yeah, a large amount of HP. So definitely do not use any of your Half Moon Grass or Late Moon Grass, except in extremely dire circumstances. You will know if that if your circumstances merit that. But do try to avoid it. And I can return to the Nexus there if I needed to. So for instance, let's say I got a bunch of souls, and I managed not to die. I can then run back to the beginning and buy some health items from my merchant man. So again, blocking at the bare minimum is something you're going to want to be doing a lot of. And I will actually also give you a taste in case you choose a different style of character. See, this door is locked. This is something to do with world tendency. I'm not going to get into it. But basically, you're not going to be able to get through that door for now. So I want to give you a sense of the difference between these starting classes. So these things like this unknown soldier's soul, like all of these corpses that sort of start out on the level, once you grab these items, you keep them. So, for instance, I got an unknown soldier's soul that adds to my soul stock. Big piece of advice, do not spend these items, do not consume these items until you are about to spend souls, and you actually need those extra souls. Get out of here. I mentioned that already with the health items, but I think it's very important to mention it in reference to the souls. Because remember, souls are lost when you die. So you might even not get to use them. At least if you use a health item, it keeps you alive a little bit longer. Alright, you can see these guys aren't doing a ton of damage to me, but it adds up, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my heal miracle. And that way, if I die, or I, like, say, go back to the Nexus and come back, then I haven't lost anything like I would have. So dodging out of these guys' way is not something that you really want to be doing if you're wearing heavy armor like I am. Alright, so I'm going to look at my new inventory. So I got a broken sword. Broken sword, do not bother equipping it. It doesn't really deal any damage. In fact, I will equip it and show you. It deals essentially no damage. Yeah. And this is the backstab I told you about. Alright, I'm gonna get out of here. You can't chase me. Is he giving up? Yeah. Oh no, he's still coming. Right, so I'm going to change my equipment. One other thing about this game that I think definitely contributes to the sense that it's a very difficult game is you cannot pause it. And that is a bit of a pain, especially if you're... Like, it totally makes sense because of the online features of this game, which I'm not going to get into, but basically you have these, like, sort of passive online features where players can invade your game, or you can play cooperatively with players, but you're still basically playing a single-player game. All right, so keep this area in mind. I want to get through this gate. That's kind of my goal here. I have to figure out a way to get through this gate. So it makes sense that you can't really ever pause the game, even if you're like in your menu, even if you push the start button, you're not paused. See, he's still coming after me. So definitely be careful with that. So that was just a normal block. So as you can see, having this heater shield is a big advantage. Let's do it again with another enemy. Right, so he's shooting at me. When you're blocking projectiles like this, it helps to lock onto the enemy, just to make sure that your shield is facing the projectile. Alright. You can see I haven't died yet. You might look at this and be like, "Oh, that's really cool. That looks like a, what is that? Like a magical floor that I can walk across?" No, it's not a magical floor you can walk across. If you try to step on that, you will fall in the hole and die. It's just a hole. But they made it look real shiny to entice you. So again, here's another thing. It's like, all right, how do I get through here? Can I break down the door? No, but you can see there's something there, right? So this is that level design in play. I can see there's an item there. Later on, I will be able to open this door by pulling a lever or something like that and get that item. And then once I've done that, I don't have to go through that process again. So I want to kind of give a sense of the difference between some of these starting classes, even though I can't actually change my class right now. But I want to give a sense what it looks like when I take damage with all of my armor on, and then what it looks like if I take damage. All right, so you can see they're just damaging me. It's dealing like very small amounts of damage, right? And I'm gonna go heal up now. So I don't quite have enough MP to do it twice, which is real nice of them. Right? They start you with just enough MP to do it once, and it looks like you almost have enough to do it twice, but you don't. So, in fact, I'm not going to use my Crescent Moon Grass, but I am going to take off at least the majority of my armor. So now I'm able to do these quick rolls, right? So I'm going to give you a little bit of a sense of another style of play style. If you were choosing like the Wanderer or the Thief, that's less focused on armor. And in fact, I'm going to unequip my shield. I'm going to attempt to just dodge the enemies. I'm going to take a little Crescent Moon Grass because I know they're going to come at me. There's an ambush right here. If you were playing online, there might be a message about it. You can leave messages for the other players. I believe it's using an item. And I believe I don't actually have access to that item. Quite yet. But if you were playing online, you might see a message warning you that there's an ambush here. As we saw during the tutorial, sometimes there's messages on the ground. You also see people's bloodstains that will show you how they died. There's lots of different online features. I'm playing offline because my Wi-Fi is too advanced for the PlayStation 3, and I don't want to bother plugging it in. But I know that there's going to be... Actually, there wasn't an ambush there. Maybe it was that other room that I just came out of. There was definitely a guy in there. Alright, so I want to kind of get a sense, first of all, how many hits I can take without the armor on, and also what it might look like if I were trying to dodge instead of block. If you're not like a super experienced gamer, you don't have like high agility, I would definitely recommend either a knight or the temple knight for the ability to use your shield. But this is another option. So you can see there that he took off maybe 20%, like a fifth of my life bar, maybe a little bit less, with a single hit, versus very small chunks the other guys were doing. You want to be careful here. He's throwing firebombs. So I could pretty much die with one hit from that if I had lower defense. So I could just basically sucker punch them since I don't have a shield on. And again, things like this item, this unknown soldier's soul. We can see another item back there. I'm walking cautiously because I don't know if there's going to be like an enemy hiding there in a little while. There wasn't. But it's always good to move slowly, cautiously, and carefully. And in fact, what I'm going to do now... no, I'll play through a little bit more. So yeah, so now that I've gotten that item, I don't have to bother with that again. So even though you might be dying frequently... Ooh, he's got fire stick. I definitely don't want to get hit by that. Hey, buddy. Throwing firebombs at me again? Yeah, so even though I might die, always good to not rush toward the enemies. So you can see I'm kind of backing away from them as they approach me. And you can also see, because I'm more agile with this armor off, I can dodge and then immediately come around and attack, or dodge and then keep moving. Right. There's another thing, like, how do I get that? There's a guy back there. Hey, buddy. What you doing? You just gonna be there? Alright. So I did want to say, you can see I got these. Where's my items? Here we go. I got these firebombs. Do not use your firebombs. Save your firebombs. You will be wanting them for later in the level. And again, it is a consumable item. You can tell it's consumable. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh no! You lit me on fire. You can tell it's a consumable item because it's got a number next to it. The non-consumable items have no numbers. So see in the Nexial Binding, if I use it, I don't lose it because it doesn't have a number. But any of these that have a number, if I use them, then they're gone. So any consumable item, you want to be a little careful about how often you use it. Right, and I would also want to be very careful about rolling on this platform here. I'm going to go ahead and use a Crescent Moongrass. I could see that guy sort of peeking through, right? It's all about awareness. I'm going to see if I can roll past him and backstab him. So this is kind of like the other main playstyle, is rolling, trying to get those backstabs, and just avoiding the attacks completely instead of trying to block them. In many ways, that's, like I said, I like that playstyle better. One of the only truly unfair moments of the game is right around now. And if you're playing online, you should be warned about it. And also, if you have a decent reaction time, you should be able to avoid death here, but you can see... Oh, shoot! And he didn't manage to kill me, which is nice. And I broke that little area, got that item. So now I have a bastard sword. So let's take a look at this bastard sword. I might switch out my halberd for a bastard sword. I also have a mail breaker here. So... Mailbreaker is... The advantage is it's going to be very light. And it's like a rapier, right? But it's not going to actually deal that much damage. But it's very light, and it's very useful for the parry and riposte, because I believe that these styles of weapons deal a lot more damage. Critical damage, basically. So a backstab or a riposte. And then my bastard sword is heavier even than my halberd. It says I'm not strong enough to wield it. So let's take it off again. Let's switch for the halberd. Let's read that message. You're not strong enough to use this with one hand. However, you may use it effectively if you wield it with both hands. So that's important to note. So how do we know we're not strong enough? Well, if we look at our inventory, it says stats needed down at the bottom, and we've got the 4 stats. Good luck memorizing those, but you can go to your stats page and you can see what they are. But basically, the first one's strength, then dexterity, then magic, then faith. So it says that I need 18 strength to wield this item. How much strength do I actually have? Is there a way to tell from here? Change status display. Here we go. So that's my actual stats. I only have 14 strength. So I need to level up strength 4 times to use this weapon effectively one-handed. So what does that mean? Well, if I swing it now, it looks like I'm doing pretty well, but it will take much more stamina than it otherwise would. My attack animation is slower and sort of less precise, so I'm swinging it kind of more wildly. And I believe I might also do less damage. But if I two-hand the weapon, I can now wield it effectively as a two-handed weapon, which means I don't get any of those disadvantages. You asshole. And then the dodge, right? Try and dodge behind this guy and backstab him. That didn't work. See, I basically spent my first play of this game just backstabbing people. Alright, so we've got a choice here. We can go left or right. This is basically our first branching path in the level. Now, if we look left, what do we see? A scary-looking knight with glowing blue eyes. Extremely imposing. And if you'll remember, we kind of fought one of these guys in the tutorial. He is extremely difficult. I would not recommend going after him right away. But you might want to come back later when you're a little stronger and checking him out. For now, we're going to see what's over here. So I put the environment between myself and the guy who's shooting arrows, because I don't have my shield up right now, so I can't actually block the arrows. Watch what happens if I try to block it with my sword. I block it a little bit, I still take quite a bit of damage. And there, look at this guy. He's got glowing red eyes. That seems extremely dangerous. And he's coming after me. So, spoilers, this guy will kill you. I'm just going to run. I can run much better with lower equipment on. He's still coming after me. And you can hear his footsteps slowed down. That means he's going the other direction. Oh, I hear him running again. Coming after me. I don't think he can come down these stairs. So if you're a bit of a cheesy player like I am, you want to try and take advantage of these enemies' AI in this way. So I'm going to change my equipment back around. We're going to go back to my full armor set. Although, I think I'd probably be better off dodging this guy. Personally. Fuck! Ah! Alright, he just came after me. So again, not being able to pause, yeah, that makes a difference. Alright. So I think blocking, I think he has a really strong weapon. So I'm only going to be able to block a few of his attacks. Oh, and you can see some damage got through, and it dealt quite a bit of damage to me. So if you're good at the parry riposte, you might be able to take care of this guy. But pretty much, you're going to want to come deal with him later. So, I died. What does that mean? Well, as you can see, I keep all of my equipment that I gathered, as I mentioned. All of my MP has been restored, so I can cast my one spell again. And I should probably do that the first time that I'm low on health, rather than using equipment, item. But all of these enemies come back that I've already defeated. But all of those items that I collected remain in my inventory. And any other changes that I've made to this level would remain applied. So what I could do, if I were feeling a little foolish and confident, is I could just run past all these guys and try to just get back to where I was. But I know that they're going to drop a little bit of Crescent Moon Grass. Hey, bud. You can see, if you pay attention to my stamina gauge, that green bar on the top left, when I block attacks, that goes down. It also goes down when I attack. So let's say I do a combination of those. Let's say I attack the enemy, and then I hold up my shield. My stamina is going to increase more slowly. And as he continues to attack me, it's going to take down my stamina. And eventually it's going to break my defense. And it's just like when I would do a parry and riposte on him. He would be able to get like an extremely strong hit on me. I want to show you how I would get through this area. Whoops. Put those gauntlets back on. I'm going to show you how I would get through this area with dodging. And let's try the Mailbreaker, actually. It's going to do not very much damage. So I would basically dodge right before that projectile is going to hit me. Like right after I hear the sound. It's too late there. I think he's just too close. But if you just kind of like sidestep, a lot of the time, especially if you're in close range with them, you can avoid the projectile, because they're not very good at aiming, actually. And I know there's going to be 2 guys ambushing me here, so I'm going to just dodge out of the way. Let him come to me, rather than let myself be surrounded. And so the nice thing about this mail breaker is if I do have my shield up, I can then attack with my shield still up. But that's going to take a lot of stamina. I'm going to put my equipment back on. Remember, I'm not going to be able to dodge very effectively. So I have to change my playstyle a little bit and be a little bit more cautious. It seems like I'm not doing as much damage with this mail breaker, but you can't really discount the effectiveness of being able to swing it in close quarters or being able to use it with my shield up. But always put your shield down if you see your stamina start to get low, because it's much better to just take a normal hit than to have them break through your defense. But I am going to go back to my halberd. I think that's probably the best weapon for me at the moment. And I'm going to heal up. Alright, so we've already played through this area. We know what's coming. The guy's going to throw a firebomb. Remember, I want to use my R1 attack, my basic attack here, because if I use my big attack, it's going to be bouncing off the walls in this close quarters. So I'm just using normal shield here because the parry and riposte timing is a little tricky. And this video is for people who are not like super skilled at action games. So you can see with my heater shield, I'm absorbing like 100% of the damage that's coming at me until it breaks through that shield, as that firebomb just did. So just have your shield up when you're walking around. Even if somebody gets a drop on you, probably it's not going to hurt you too badly. And then once he's recovering from that, I put my shield down and I attack. And I could try and do parry and riposte on this guy. Yep, he's throwing a firebomb. So the best thing to do if you see somebody getting out of projectile is just to step out of the way most of the time. I just didn't want to fight him in that doorway because my weapon has such a wide swing. So that guy rolled that boulder down, that's still down there, so he's not going to do it again. But I think that's kind of a scripted moment. Like, I think you're intended to die there, or at least take the damage the first time, to teach you to be aware of your surroundings. And see, here's my blood stain. I touch that, I get everything back. Everything that, like all of the soul that I lost. Alright, so we learned that red eye guy is probably not somebody we want to mess with right now. Examine this corpse. Okay, so there's another weapon that I can use. I'm just going to keep my shield up is going to absorb all of the damage. But you do have to be careful because not every shield will do that. So I'm going to switch to my new equipment, see what this is like. So I can wield it effectively. It's lighter than the other one that I have, but it deals a little bit less damage per attack. But that's not the whole story, because the type of animation and how fast the attack is also is going to make a difference. You can see, I can look at my physical attack, or I can just look at the top right where it says right-hand weapon to see the difference. So I'm going to try it for just a little bit. I don't think I did. So this is going to be another one that I can use with my shield up. The only problem with that is your stamina is going to increase more slowly if you've got your shield up. And I'm going to take a Crescent Moongrass because I see that blue-eyed knight up there, and I want to have full health to fight him. Alright, so he just tried to break my guard. I'm going to come up behind him, do a backstab. He's got heavy armor on, so he's going to move. Ah, he uses items too? Totally unfair. I just cannot get the timing right on that parry and riposte. But let's just try blocking. So if he starts to do that with his shield, you want to get out of there. And then... let's try that again. There we go. So that's going to be the fastest way to get rid of enemies like that. But takes a little bit of skill. Remember, you can always just block, and depending on what shield you have, it will absorb a good chunk of the damage. So let's take a look at that, actually. I got this new shield. It's a little bit heavier. It also has 100% damage reduction, and a slightly higher guard break reduction, which is nice. But it looks like I don't have the stats needed to wield it. So it'd be pointless for me to use, but I can at least take a look at it and see what it looks like. Ooh, a cool looking shield. Yay. I'm going to put on my heater shield, because that's pretty much the only shield you need. Unless you're going to be really into like blocking, I think the heater shield is the lightest and easiest to obtain shield that has 100% damage reduction. So here we've got another choice, right? There's a fog over here. Somebody's following me. I thought I heard footsteps. So there's fog here that I can go through. That usually means I'm progressing on the level. Or there's this, which who knows what this is. Except that somebody is walking rather slowly. So, what I said earlier about, you don't have to go through the same areas again, that's where this would apply, right? I can check out this area, and if I get all the way to the end of it... Hey, buds! That guy blew himself up. So now we know there are explosive barrels. So if I get all the way to the end of this area, and it doesn't take me further in the level, but I get some neat equipment or something like that, and then I go back and take the other path and I die, I don't have to do this part again. So again, it's actually more forgiving. Oh, do be careful when you're locked onto enemies, because it is possible to fall off. Alright, so this is interesting. What is this? It's a chain. Attacking that chain, not sure what that did, but looked like there was maybe something hanging from the chain. and that has now fallen. So down there, if I go down there again, it looks like around where I started, I can get those things. And again, I won't have to do that again if I die and reload. That is a permanent change on the state of the world. Lots of fire bombs. Oh dear. Yeah. It's a good thing I have good armor on. So I'm backing up a little bit, because if I just try to take my health item while they're swinging at me, it's going to go bad for me. And remember, I can use my spear with my shield up. Let's try that and see what happens. And that's going to be useful if, for example, I'm being shot at as well. Oh, these guys are really bad at navigating. As great as I think the atmosphere is in these games. Okay, so you can remember that earlier explosion? We saw it was one of these barrels with the red outline. If this guy's fire touches that barrel, it's going to explode again. And I'm actually not sure if it's going to explode if I hit it with my spear. Let's see. No. So I can break these with my spear, and that will avoid him setting it off, causing a big explosion. I could also use my fire bombs from my inventory to explode it. And here's a lever. So I opened 2 gates here. I found a cling ring that's extremely important. Probably the most important piece of equipment to get in the early game. And those things from the people who were, I guess they were hanging there. So let's look at my new equipment. So, again, I don't have to go back through and get this equipment again if I were to die. I now permanently have this equipment unless I somehow lose it. I've got some old ragged stuff. Robe made of layers of ragged fabric. It's covered with tears, unsightly open seams, and numerous unsightly insects wriggling within it. No sane person would ever wear something like this. So what are the benefits? Compared to what I have on, it's not as good at anything, but it's much lighter. And then, so let's, like, for instance, there's no old ragged helmet, I guess. So now I can wear this old ragged clothes. I believe these are a witch's clothes. And remember, there was also some spice there. So what's spice? Old Spice, of course. Old Spice, with a pungently sweet smell, restores a large amount of the user's MP. It is made by mixing various fermented ingredients. Because of its sharp smell and often unsavory brewers, it has been prohibited in some regions. Yes, we all know that Old Spice has been outlawed in many regions. But the most important thing I got that jade hairpin, which I believe is a key item. In fact, I don't even think it shows up in my inventory. Oh, here it is. Jade hair ornament. Simple little hair ornament. Could it belong to a poor little girl? That's going to be important. I would want to avoid using that. And then I've got this cling ring. Lose less HP when in soul form. Character loses less HP after becoming a soul. So if I were to put on this ring, look at my maximum HP, it has gone up. This is basically, we're halfway there at this point, right? If you were to then go through part of the level and die, we've got our cling ring, which is going to make everything easier. We'll have 75% our maximum HP instead of 100 or instead of 50%. And we've basically unlocked this shortcut. Instead of going through that whole area where there was the rolling boulder and all of that stuff, we can climb up this stairs. We'll have to fight these enemies again if we go up this way. But like, if I were to die, I could then go up this side area, and I'd be able to go straight to this fog here and continue the level instead of going the long way. So it might seem as though you're not making any progress and you lose everything every time you die, but it's actually very far from the truth. Alright. See that guy? See, he's standing in front of a pile of barrels that are explosive. It's probably likely, if I had not already experienced this several times, that I would have died just then. Although there were clues. Ah! No, don't throw fire at me. I do think this spear, even though it deals a little bit less damage, I think it's going to be good for close quarters combat. Do not attack this guy.
Good day to you. Care to look over my wares? Mostly stolen, but who's telling ye? Be a brave knight or depraved slave, the demons will snatch your soul, and you'll go mad. And those who dare cling to their humanity are hunted down. It is the end of Great Boletaria as we know it. But hell, at least the demons don't send us to our deaths in battle. There's this skinny fella, clad in fabulous armor, who's always mumbling about some mission. He's another one who's managed to stay sane like yourself. Probably some pampered son by the looks of his attire. I'd give an arm just for the buttons off his shirt. It is the end of Great Boletaria as we know it. But hell, at least... Hello, what can I do for you?
So this is a merchant. We can buy some stuff from him in the middle of the level. We can buy crescent moon grass and half moon grass. We can buy firebombs. And it looks like he sells some weapons as well. So I might want to save up for something like a long sword, which is a very, I guess, versatile weapon. And he also sells some plate armor, but it's not necessarily going to be any better than the armor that I already have. But if I started out as a class with worse armor, that would be, like, especially if I started out as a barbarian, who starts out with no armor whatsoever, this would be definitely something to look into buying. I have less than 1,500 souls, so what I would probably do at this point is I would get, if I didn't have any shield at all, I would probably get a shield. And I would look at the shields and say, okay, this one has 80% damage reduction, this one has 90% damage reduction. I would save up and grab a shield. And then the next thing I would think about doing is getting a straight sword. I do have the stats needed to wield the straight sword. It would be dealing a little bit less damage than my spear, but I believe I would be able to wield it much more easily, meaning I would be able to do
take your time. I'm
more.
not going anywhere.
I'd be able to do more hits, using less stamina and faster, so it might end up being better damage per second.
Hello, what can I do for you?
And then if I wasn't interested in any of those things, or I'd already bought them, I would basically spend all of my souls on these health recovery items. Maybe buy some firebombs as well. Because, like I mentioned, if you die, you lose your souls until you can get back to your bloodstain, but you're not going to lose your items. So much better if you're in the middle of this level, especially if
Go
you've
on
never
then,
played
take
this
your
game
time.
before.
I'm not going anywhere.
To spend the souls on something useful that you'll get to keep than to die. Alright, so I see a bunch of explosive barrels there. I'm very leery. Somebody's walking around somewhere. Oh, I forgot that I changed my armor. Alright, so this is more of an advanced thing, but oh gosh. Getting used to your weapons moveset can be very useful. For instance, I don't think the spear has any like sort of wide area attacks, whether one-handed or two-handed. My halberd, on the other hand, would. So if I had my halberd equipped, I would want to, if I were surrounded like that, I would want to use one of my sort of wide sweeping attacks to deal damage to all of those enemies at the same time. And again, I'm just doing the normal block, and it's absorbing all of the damage. So if you just keep your shield up, and you put on a healer shield, that's basically how I played through the entirety of Demon's Souls. Later on, you might want to get a shield that blocks magic. Oh gosh. So this is going to be difficult because there's a lot of them. So you just want to keep an awareness of where everybody is. There's a guy shooting at me from above, but if I keep moving around, it shouldn't be an issue. I'm going to try to avoid taking my health items. I just put my shield up as soon as I saw him get close. Until I've gotten rid of these guys. And now I'm going to try and eat my health item. Because as soon as you're consuming a health item, that gives them an opportunity to come after you. Just keep your shield up. I see there's another blue-eyed knight. I wonder if that's the breathing that I'm hearing. Alright, so I've got 1,500 souls. And I'm pretty far away from the Nexus. So I am going to take a health item now, but just keep an eye on them. And you don't want to let yourself get to 0. It's better to keep dying and sort of learning than to use up all your health items. And absolutely do not use your half moon grass or your late moon grass or anything like that at this stage in the game. It would be a complete waste. Your crescent moon grass, like, enemies are dropping that just from killing them, in addition to me finding them on bodies. Hey, bud. Oh, that startled me, actually. See, there's a bunch of them over there. I mentioned not to use your fire bombs, but I'm going to try it.
Please, help me. I'm trapped. Surrounded by dreglings.
It actually did not end up being as successful as I hoped. But, here we go. Nope, still only got one of them. Sometimes if you get a bunch of them together, you can kill them with your little well-placed firebomb. I like that when they die, they just sort of go, like, it's just like, their reaction to death is just, ennui. Hey, bud. Don't attack this guy. See, he's not attacking me. Always approach people cautiously. Hey, buddy, what's up?
My thanks for your brave rescue. I am Ostrava of Boletaria. Accept this as a token of my gratitude.
A brass telescope. One of the most useful items in the game.
Now I must go. There is something I need to take care of. No matter how far I venture. No matter how far I venture, only the soul-starved remain. Is there a single sane person left in Boletaria? No matter how far I venture, only the soul...
So you want to keep an eye on this guy. It's not going to completely ruin your game, but he can die. He can also be extremely useful.
No matter how far
if we just kind of follow him around. Usually he's not going to die, but do keep an eye on him. And see, he's just walking around killing enemies for me, which is very nice. So just kind of accompany him through the level for a little while. Firebomb. Oh, come on. What if I just throw it? Nope, that was useless. So this area is definitely... We want to avoid him getting blown up, basically. Another nice thing about this spear is I can line them up and just sort of shish kebab. Ah, shards. So these are going to be useful later when I'm upgrading my equipment. Not useful at all right now. But where did that guy go? And I should not use any more of my fire bombs because I meant what I said. You should basically not use them at all. But sometimes it's hard to resist when you just see a group of enemies just all grouped together like that. All right, we gotta find this guy. Ostrava, Boletaria. There you are, Ostrava. I might be missing some things here.
No matter how far I venture.
I hear more breathing. That sounds like a blue knight. So I'm gonna go. I think this is backtracking here. Nothing useful there. And I'm going to buy that short sword and then spend the rest of my money on consumables.
Hello, what can I do for you?
I'd like to buy a sword from you. Oh, it's a long sword. Good, and then I am gonna buy a firebomb actually. I would recommend to most players.
For that. Come back soon.
To get the crescent moon grass. But since I've been using these firebombs, and I'm going to change my equipment, check out the sword. Oh, I also have a scimitar I forgot about. So, yeah, I can swing it much more quickly and with less stamina usage than my spear, even though it does a little bit less damage per swing. Right, keeping my shield up. Also, it has a really nice moveset. These are wide swings. The strong attack is this forward stab, and then that's the two-handed. Let's see if we can parry and riposte this guy. Nope. Let's try it again. I keep thinking that last move he does. There we go. But because I think the stairs make it very hard to do a riposte. So I'm just gonna see, he's got his shield up too. See, he broke my defense. That bastard's eating Crescent Moongrass too. Backstab. So if you see, like right now he's using his regular sword attacks. I'm going to eat another Crescent Moongrass. Alright. Just trying to do like a parry riposte thing. At this point, I'm just gonna go two-handed. No! You asshole. So I sort of broke his shield there. That's one of the benefits of going two-handed. If you can get enough hits in, you'll wear down their stamina. Enemies have stamina as well. Hey, buddy. Alright, so see, I've got 400 souls now. I'm gonna go back to my merchant, my dregling. Oh. And who is that walking around? You know, that might be that red-eyed knight walking around above me.
Hello, what can I...
I'm gonna buy more Crescent Moon grass.
Thanks for that. Come back soon.
And I'm gonna use one of those that I just spent my souls on, because it's better than not spending the souls and losing them. You might think, like, oh, I don't want to spend them haphazardly, but do not worry about that at the beginning of the game. Like, you might be playing the first level and you end up losing like 5,000 souls or something like that, and it seems like this tremendous loss because you fought so hard to get those souls, but then you'll be getting 50,000 souls routinely not too long later. So, and here's where the level, I think, starts to get difficult. See that over there? So I actually got an item. Let's use my brass telescope. We'll equip it there. So we can see there's a dragon there. That is not coincidence. I'm going to go ahead and whack that. Again, if I were playing online, there might be a little note telling me to attack there. Otherwise, it's just a nice little thing for you to discover. Yeah, this is where it starts to get hard. Hey, guys. So I saw that guy was going to get around, like, to attack me from the side. And so I tried to put up my shield as fast as possible after my attack animation was finished. Alright. I don't quite remember exactly what happens here, but I have a very foreboding feeling about this place right here. And actually, this as well. Hey, bud. So I'm going to run through. Actually, I don't think there's anything bad here. I think it's that long bridge there that I have to watch out for. Again, you don't actually have to know this stuff. Oh, yeah, look at that guy. So, we've got a few visual clues here. There's a dragon. There is a field of charred corpses. There are some very tempting items there. Do not give in to temptation. I might be able to go down along this path. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, so that was close. All right, what do we got here? Shard of archstone, full moon grass. What is a shard of archstone? Ah. So this sends the user back to the Nexus with all of their souls intact. Extremely useful. Right, I'm going to run. So you can see why I didn't want to go up there. You can get that stuff later. Do not risk it right now. I swear there's a way to jump. It might not be introduced until the second game. Oh, I feel ya. That's a mood. All right. Hear that? See that? I am going to take some crescent moon grass. And I'm actually going to put on my good armor. That's going to make me run more slowly. Alright, see that? You hear the flapping? So again, this is something that if I were playing online, there would probably be a message telling me about. But Otherwise, it's trial and error. No, there's no way I'm getting through there. Let's see. I think I will run faster if I take off my armor, as scary as that sounds. At least switch back to my old ragged robes. And then I just rolled as fast as I could through. So, if I did not know what was coming, I would most likely die. It's okay. I've unlocked that shortcut already. And I've gotten my better equipment. I've already dealt with Ostrava of Boletaria, so I don't have to go down to where he was again. There's a lot that I don't have to do if I were to die and restart. And here is a lever. What does this lever do? Remember how I said our goal is to get that gate up? We got the dang gate up. We are almost done. And then after this, we can start getting access to... Ah! Always keep your shield up. Hey, bud. Turpentine. What does turpentine do? Apply to right-hand weapon to cover in fire. This is going to be very useful. So, spoilers. If you're playing online, you will probably get a note to this regard. I like how they're wearing masks. Right? Oh, gosh. Alright, so you can see my health is pretty low. So rather than stay in there and risk the fight, I backed out where I could safely heal. And I did it that way. I don't know if there's any more guys in here, so I'm going to try and take care of these guys as quickly as possible. You can see I lowered my shield as I was backing away because that helps me regenerate my stamina faster. As soon as I get out of weapons range, I'm going to want to lower my shield so I can start regenerating my stamina. Okay. And what is this thing? So this is our first kind of like our first view of like the eldritch horrors that you might encounter in this game. So, what is it? It looks like a giant shield, right? It's some blob holding a shield in the front and a spear. And remember what we said about shields and spears. You can poke with your spear while your shield is up. So we have two options for dealing with this guy. We can try and get around him to the back, as I've done. Not always easy in close quarters. Or we can try to use something other than physical damage. Because and you can see this is that starting area where we were, right? So we're almost back to where the boss is. We could try using something other than physical damage. So, like, for instance, if I were to use a firebomb on this guy. Because the shield is blocking physical damage. But it still leaves him wide open to fire damage. I could see that guy, I could see his outline there. Or the third option is just chip at his helm. I'm still doing some damage. In fact, if I were to use my spear, I believe, and particularly the Mailbreaker, spear and Mailbreaker are going to be able to break through the shield a little bit and do some piercing damage. Open the door. And there we go. We're back to the start again. So, what are we going to do? Well, you might think, oh, I'm just going to go straight through here. And that giant fog gate. But probably what you're going to want to do instead is, since we're so close to the start of the level, we're going to go back to the start. We're just going to return to the Nexus. Now, that's going to make all of the enemies in the entire level reappear. That's the downside. But we don't have to go through the entire level. We just have to go straight ahead to that gate. And for returning to the Nexus, we've regenerated our full HP. We've generated our full MP.
You came for demon souls?
And we can purchase items.
It's simple. In trade with your soul.
And we can also drop Savant.
Hairpin. That belongs to my daughter. Then she didn't make it after all. My dearest little baby. May she rest in peace. May I ask you a favor? Would you mind giving up that hairpin? I'd like to have it in memory of my daughter.
Sure.
You're a saint. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, I mustn't forget. It's not much, but please accept this as thanks. I'm a bit ashamed to say, but I found it one day, discarded on the main road. But it seems to possess a strange power. Anyway, I feel that you should have it. It will be happier in your hands.
A very useful looking piece of equipment. Breaks his maximum item burden. So always keep this ring on hand. And then if you suddenly find yourself overburdened as you're picking things up, you can put the ring on and at least make it back to the Nexus with all of your equipment. And look, we've got a new buddy.
At its peak, Boletaria was a grand kingdom. The king, his knights, and his subjects were modest and plain, but also steadfast and compassionate. In the distant southern kingdom, Boletaria was known as paradise on earth. But look at what has become of us now. I refuse to believe that this is what Father wished for our great land. I refuse to believe that this is what...
So I'm going to
I
stockpile
would
my
be
stuff.
happy to lighten your load and look after any excess baggage.
So in general, don't bother depositing rings. They're very light. Don't bother depositing health recovery equipment most of the time. If you're really struggling, you can deposit some of these other items. It doesn't hurt to deposit your ore. You can always get it back later. Well, before you talk to the blacksmith to level up your equipment.
I would be happy to...
But I'm definitely going to deposit the weapons and the armor that I'm not using. I'm going to put all of my broken swords in there. I could sell the broken swords, but it's good to keep at least one of everything. Put my bastard sword in there because I can't wield it. And we'll go ahead and we'll put the scimitar and the mailbreaker in there. Actually, we'll take the scimitar back. And we'll put the knight shield in there. And the halberd, actually, my starting equipment. Put bolts because we don't have anything to fire bolts.
Rest assured, your goods are safe and sound with me. Best of luck to you.
And I'm actually going to take my scimitar back out because I actually haven't used it. So let's see what the scimitar looks like. So it's like an alternative to this straight sword. A little bit better if you're high dexterity. Maybe a little bit of a cooler moveset. But I don't see any reason for us to carry it around right now.
Hello again.
Actually, let me take it out, unequip it first.
Hello again.
Put the scimitar in.
You have a heart of...
It's simple. Just bring me all the souls you can. In trade, I'll give you weapons, or forge ones you already have. With your souls, I can eke out a living. And with my weapons, you can go on living. Not a bad deal, huh?
So, we should repair our equipment. As long as we're here, we don't want it breaking during the boss battle. Oh yeah, the helmet particularly needs it. Must have taken a few too many blows to the head. And we can possibly also upgrade some equipment now. I would not recommend upgrading the heater shield at this point in the game. You might end up upgrading your shields later, but basically all it does is it increases the guard break reduction a little bit. So it basically takes less stamina when you're blocking. And it increases the physical attack, which I think is just you. I think that physical attack basically determines something to do with parrying. I've pretty much ignored it. But we could level up our longsword or our straight sword. And that's basically going to cause them to do more damage. But I don't have enough hardstone. I do have enough sharpstone, but I don't have enough souls to level up my wing spear. So we're not going to level up anything.
Alive.
I need your business. So, we're going to fight that boss now. Now, assuming you know nothing about the boss, you'll probably die. Again, once you've gotten this far, what are you going to lose? Right? You know what I should have done while I was there? I should have also spent my remaining souls on health recovery items. I'm going to switch my equipment around a little bit. I'm going to see if it's too much in terms of equip burden. If I can have the longsword and the spear. It doesn't seem to have increased my equip burden too much. So now I can switch between the longsword and the spear whenever I want, which is going to be very nice. It's very nice that they waste their first attack on the landscape. And the reason that I decided to make that change, although you know what? It did make it so that I don't have that light roll. So again, if I didn't make it all the way back here, these gates are still unlocked. So I could backtrack as needed. I mentioned lore earlier. Yeah, see, I definitely can't carry all this equipment. So this is what happens when you're just way overburdened in terms of equipment. Can't roll at all, and I can basically only walk. Now, I might choose to do that if I have some really good armor, but most of the time you're not going to want to bother with that, if only because it's a big pain in the butt. So I think what I'm going to do is... I'm imagining that I'm like a cautious new player. I'm going to keep my heavy armor on, so I'm not going to be rolling as much, because I don't quite know what I'm going to be facing. So I know with my heavy armor, at least if I get hit, it's going to deal less damage to me. And I'm going to keep my spear, and that is with some knowledge of what I'm about to fight. Remember, the spear kind of breaks through the shield a little bit. So, how to deal with this guy? Well, you basically do it the same way that you've been dealing with all the other ones. I would probably recommend taking care of these little guys first. Just keep a weather eye on the big one. Alright, see that big white spot? That's going to be where you're going to deal the most damage. And this is why I mentioned you want to save your fire bombs, because let's pick I can damage a lot of them at once, and then if I use my turpentine as well, this enemy does have a weakness to fire. The serpentine will only last a certain amount of time. Alright, they're flanking me too much. I'm gonna try and put this pillar between me and him. The nice thing about this boss is he's very slow. I mean, it can be a little overwhelming. Because there's just so many of them. just doing? They're just sort of hanging out, it looks like. But it's not like the first boss in Bloodborne, which is going to leap at you from like halfway across the area and do combos that are going to break through your defenses. This guy is just slow and steady. I mean, it is what it says it is, right? It's like a shield wall. Alright. And feel free to use all of your fire bombs on this fight, as long as you are not in danger of actually dying. Oh wow, that was a well-chosen firebomb. Now, it's too late for me to switch out my equipment, but I'm kind of wishing that I had used the sword here. The shield at least lets me attack from a greater distance. I'm going to take some Crescent Moongrass. Now, this is the type of situation where you would feel free to use it. If you run out, you can always go kill some more enemies and get some more, or get some souls. Almost. You just kind of slowly wearing down his defenses. I'm gonna go all the way across here and deal with these guys. And I am going to try my sword now, so... Oh, hey bud! Didn't see you there. Okay, sort of go into the corner. I'm gonna switch to my sword. I'm gonna try that, see if it works out any better. I'm gonna put on some turpentine. Alright, so this guy is basically exposed now. So this is where I want to really start wailing on him. But keeping an eye on everyone else as well. Alright, I see that... Yeah, I think the sword is the better choice here. And if I really felt confident, I could two-hand it, which means I'm not going to be able to block as easily if I need to, but it's going to be dealing a lot more damage. And you don't need to kill all these guys, but the nice thing is, I'm going to use my heal. I forgot it's in the left hand. Always make sure you back up and give yourself a little room before you heal. Alright. Yeah, you don't need to deal with these guys. It's basically getting them out of your face to prevent them from attacking, because it's basically the only way the boss can damage you. Alright. And we've done it. So we're going to want to gather all of our stuff from our corpses first. You can continue onward, but please do not. You want to First, touch the Archstone. And we got a Lead Demon Soul. Let's look at our inventory and see what it says about it. Do not use this by mistake. You want to hold on to all of these named Demon Souls to be made into spells, miracles, or weapons. At least on your first playthrough. And you can see, I've got footsteps again. I've got a full health bar again. And I can actually now level up.
Welcome back. The monumental awaits the above.
This camera movement is very 12 years ago.
The monumental will explain the nexus to thee.
Still alive? I am impressed. Listen.
What? What's up, bud?
Still alive? I am impressed. This is something that might interest us. The Black-robed maiden of the Nexus looks after the flames. She's a morose type, with eyes occluded by wax. She can control souls like no other. Bring her the souls of men and demons, and she will embolden your flesh and blood with their power. But beware. Do not devolve into a foul beast.
The monumental awaits the above. The monumental will explain the nexus to thee.
So this is particularly, you do not want to attack her.
The monumental awaits the above.
And I'm going to go see the monumental. So once I've spoken to the monumental, they'll unlock the ability to gain souls, or gain soul level, spending my souls. And you can see I've got about 3,000 of them. If I look at my stats, my next soul level, I think it should usually say somewhere. I don't think it actually says. It might say when talking to her, but I should be able to gain a couple of soul levels at least. And she'll also give me some items that I can use to do cooperative multiplayer, basically summoning other players into my game to help me. However, as soon as I die again, then I'm going to go back into soul form. And the only way to get it back is to defeat a boss, or to successfully help another player, or to successfully invade and kill another player if you're feeling a little evil. Which I would definitely not go that path if you are not a confident gamer. So, that, I think that I've concluded the purpose of this video. I just wanted to give other people, like my brother, a little bit of hope. It can seem extremely overwhelming when you're first starting out, but it's not actually that bad, despite all of the dead children that we're seeing right now. And from this point forward, it only gets easier. The levels might seem harder, But you'll have the tools needed to overcome that difficulty. So I'm going to close with speaking to the Monumental, because this is the true sort of opening movie of the game.
We have long awaited you, Slayer of Demons. I am one of the Monumentals. We preserve the fabric of reality. There is something thou needest to know. Once, we too, a scourge of demons faced. In the distant past, under a benevolent rule, the world was united owing to the soul arts. Until a lust for power caused the awakening of the Old One. Across the land seeped a colorless, deep fog, and the world faced extinction at the hands of the demons. Thanks be, we were able to lull the Old One back to his slumber, yet only after the loss of innumerable souls, and half the world lost, erased by the fog. In order to mend the fabric of what land still remained, we entrusted 6 elders with 6 precious archstones. 1 to the king of a small yet diligent land. 1 to the king of the burrowers underground. 1 to the wise queen of the great ivory tower. 1 to the chieftain of lost and ill-fortuned souls. 1 to the shaman of the tempest-worshipping shadowmen. And the last to the great giants of the northern lands. The archstones were placed at nodes across the earth. We contained the Old One inside this nexus and banned the soul arts. Finally, we became monumentals, half-living sentinels of the fabric of reality. Alas, the other monumentals have perished, and only I remain. Now it is your turn. You must lull the Old One back to its slumber and seal it away for all eternity. If not, the deep fog will absorb all that we know. Have you the strength to accept this mission?
Sure.
Yes, we are fortunate indeed to have you. Now, go forth and destroy every last demon. The Old One, without demons to feed its souls, will a new servant seek and lure you to its bosom. We neutralized the Old One and banned the soul arts. Then we spread the archstones, and in order to mend reality, monumentals we became. However, man's memory of history is o'ershort, and before long he repeated his mistakes. The monumentals perished, and the archstones were long forgotten. And the short-sighted King Alant once again aroused the Old One. The monumentals perished, and the archstone long forgotten. And the short-sighted
Do not drop off of that ledge unless you want to lose your body form immediately. And that's it. Now we can go down and I think the monumental might actually give you an item at some point, but I'm not quite sure Maybe if I kept talking to him, it. But at this point, we're going to want to. So basically, at this point, you have free reign of the game. You can go to any of the archstones in any order. They are roughly set up in terms of difficulty so that the next place that you would probably go is the first area of the Burrow King. Then you would go to the first area of the Tower Queen, then the first area of the Shadowmen, and then the first area of the Chieftain. And then you would go to the second area of Boletaria, second area of the Burrow King, etc., etc., etc. It's roughly the way that it's set up. But you can really do it in any order you want, depending on what you want to focus on. Each of these archstones kind of has its own focus in terms of what you can get there. And I'm not going to tell you what that is, but just in terms of if you're looking for places to improve your weapons, you might go to a certain one. If you're looking for more magic, you might go to a different one. If you're looking for more miracles, you might go to a different one. And if we talk
Brave soul,
to the maiden,
who fears not death, prithee, lull the old one back to its ancient slumber.
so she just gave me my 2 eye stones. Those are items, so I would need to equip them and use them. So the blue eye stone, I would leave a blue soul sign. And then I can regain my body if I succeed in helping the summoner defeat a demon. The white ice stone is used to send summoned phantoms back to their original world. Or go back to your original world as a summoned phantom. This is like if you basically encounter somebody who is not playing the game seriously and is like maybe hindering your progress, or the general term is like griefing, right? You can send them away and replace them with someone else.
What is it? Dost thou seek soul power?
Yeah.
So be it. After all, thou requirest strength. Go forth, touch the demon inside me. Let these ownerless souls become thine own. Soul of the mind, key to life's ether. Soul of the lost, withdrawn from its vessel. Let strength be granted so the world might be mended. So the world might be mended.
So, remember, if you forget what the different stats do, you can go into the status screen and press the help button to see what the stats do. Or it kind of gives you a hint here. So various things that you could level up at this point, depending on what you think you need. Vitality is never a bad idea. It gives you more hit points. And endurance is also quite a good idea because it lets you wear heavier equipment and also increases your defense against things other than physical attacks. Remember, strength and dexterity are going to increase my attack with regular weapons. Magic and faith are going to increase my power of my magic and my miracles. Luck is going to let them drop better items. Probably not the main thing I would level up right away, but some people I'm sure do. Intelligence is going to let me memorize additional spells and have more MP, so maybe I might be able to cast my heal spell twice instead of once. Actually, let's upgrade it and see. So I would probably start with Vitality or Endurance if it were me, and then probably once I've got a few points in those, go to Strength and Dexterity. And see, it says it requires 775 souls, and I have 769 souls. So what can you do? You can use one of those consumable items. Remember, we have these hero souls. If I use it, I got some souls, but now I'm going to still have an excess. So probably a better thing to do is go to an area where there's some very easy enemies, like that first area we just came out of.
Soul of the mind, key to life's ether. Soul of the lost, withdrawn from its I shall await.
And just kill a couple of enemies, and then you've got the souls you need. I'm now going to see if I can do my heal spell twice. If not, I'm going to get additional MP. No, not yet. So I'm basically going to, for my character, the very first thing that I kind of want to do
Soul of the mind, key to life's ether. Soul of the lost, withdrawn from its vessel. Art thou done?
is be able to cast that heal spell twice, which it looks like I now am able to do. And that's kind of the way that I deal with gaining levels in these games. Like, for instance, with my sword, I might be able to kill an enemy with 3 hits, but the first 2 hits take off most of its health, and then the last hit just takes a final sliver. So I might focus on just getting enough stat increases in whatever stat increases my weapon damage to be able to kill the enemy in 2 hits, because killing an enemy in 2 hits versus 3 hits makes a huge difference when, you know, you're trying to deal with the enemies quickly before they have a chance to counterattack. So just a few extra final hints, but we're going to end it here. Hope if you watched this and you're playing the new Demon Souls, or maybe you picked up the old one, I don't know. This gives you a little bit of hope. That opening area can be overcome. And at this point, you know, I can just keep going back to that same area again and again if I wanted to, fighting easier enemies until I've got enough souls to get the extra levels, or I could go to one of these harder areas and just fight enemies near the start of the area and then head back and just keep getting levels if I wanted. And one thing I did not really just point out, every stat that I increase increases my defense. My defense against physical attacks will increase no matter what I level up. So that's basically tied to your soul level. So there's really no way to completely waste a level increase, even though there's definitely more efficient ways and less efficient ways. Any of them is going to make your game easier. So hopefully this assuaged some of your worry and doubt if you're feeling it, or it just gave you a good sense of what the opening of the game is like if you're thinking about picking it up. But for now, it is rather late. We're going to go to bed.